Alright, Math 1, let's take a look at this substitution. So we're going to use substitution, and remember, the key ideas with substitution is that we're trying to get one variable in one equation by itself. Then we substitute what that variable is equal to into the other equation to get one variable in an equation. To not have two variables, to get one variable. And then once we do that, we can solve for that variable and then use that answer to solve the other part. Okay? So let's look at number 1. So these ones are fairly simple in that you can see we've already got one variable or two by itself. That makes it a lot easier. We don't have to do that. So then I look at this and say, okay, y is equal to -1. So y is the same thing as -1. So I can take that and I can replace the y or substitute in -1 for the y. So instead of 3x minus 2y, I get 3x minus 2 times -1 equals -1. Okay, so I took that same top equation, just substituted -1 in for the y. That gives me one variable. Now I can solve. If I have one equation and two variables, I can never solve it for one exact answer. Okay, so I get 3x plus 2 equals -1. Subtract 2 from both sides. I get 3x equals -3. -1 minus 2 is -3. Divide by 3, and we get x equals -1. So y equals -1, x equals -1. That means in these two lines, the point -1, -1 is my solution. Okay, remember, when we're dealing with a system of equations, graphically thinking about it, it's where they intersect. So if we had lines here, y equals -1, the other line, something like this, that point, -1, -1, is where they intersect. It's the only place where they're both the same. Okay, so let's take a look at number 2 now. So now we've got y equals 0, so I replace the y, I substitute 0 in for the y. And then I solve. I get 3x equals 3. Divide by 3, and x equals 1. So my x value is 1, and my y value is 0. So the solution to those two equations is 1, 0. Okay, number 3. I've got y equals -3. So I'm going to replace that negative y with -3. Okay. So then a negative makes it positive. And then I solve for that x because I'm down to one variable now. So I get 3x equals -12 because -9 minus 3 is -12. Divide by 3, and we get x equals -4. So x is -4 and y is -3. Okay, now 4, notice I've got y equals -2x. I'm still going to treat it the same way I did these first two. Okay, I'm going to take this -2x and I'm going to put it in for the y. So I get 4x minus 4 times -2x, because remember, it's 4 times y. So 4 times -2x equals 12. Now, here's the point again. Now I have one type of variable. So now I can solve it, whereas before, both equations had two types of variables. So I get 4x, -4 times -2 is a positive 8x, equals 12. 4 plus 8 gives me 12x, equals 12. Divide by 12, we get x equals 1. Okay, now do we know what y is yet? No, so we've got to use what we know to help us with what we don't know. So now I know x is 1. So I can replace or substitute 1 in for x, and I get y equals -2 times 1, or y equals -2. So I have 1, -2 for my answer on number 4. Okay, that one was a bit more complex. We had a little bit more to do, but it's the same concept. Okay, number 5, y equals -1. So I replace this y with -1, and then I solve for x. So -1 plus 1 is 0, so I get x equals 0. and y equals -1. Number 6. Now I've got 4x plus 4 equal to y and x plus 1 equal to y. So it doesn't matter which one I choose, okay? I could put 4x plus 4 in for this y or x plus 1 in for this y. It'll give me the same thing. So I replace this y with 4x plus 4 equals x plus 1. Now I'm down to one variable, so I can solve. So I subtract 4. So I get 4x equals x. 1 minus 4 is -3. I subtract x. 4x minus x would give me 3x equals -3. Divide by 3, and x equals -1. So there's half my answer. Now I need to find the y. To find the y, I can just use that, replace that x with -1, and instead of y equals x plus 1, I have y equals -1 plus 1. -1 plus 1 is 0, so y equals 0. So the second half of my answer is 0. So -1, 0. Okay, number 7, same idea. So we can take this -3x minus 5 and replace that y with it. So that equals 4x plus 2. So we could subtract 2 from both sides. So we'd have -3x minus 7 equals 4x. Add 3x. We'd get -7 equals 7x. Divide by 7, and I get -1 equals x. Okay, there's half my answer. Then I go back to one of my equations, doesn't matter which one, and I substitute in for x that -1, and then solve. -3 times -1 is +3, minus 5 is -2, so y equals -2. So my answer is -1, -2. Okay, the last one, take this x plus 2, replace that y with it, so I get x minus 2 equals -3x plus 6. Then we solve by getting x's on the same side, so I could add a 3x to both sides. 1x plus 3x is 4x, minus 2 equals 6. Add 2 to both sides. We get 4x equals 8. Divide by 4, and x equals 2. Take this equation again, replace the x with 2, and then solve for y. 2 minus 2 is 0, y equals 0. My answer is 2, 0. And there we go with these simple substitutions. That's all you do. But any type of problem you get, it's the same concept. Same concept to solve it.